What's that one cringe-inducing memory from years ago that you can't get out of your head? High school play. I start improvising. I don't even know why I did it. I just got so into the moment I forgot there was a script. God, I can't even describe it in complete sentences. I hate me in that moment. Edit. It was gospel, kind of like the Bible but confusing. Non-linear and musical, and I was one of the stuck-up priests. When Jesus started talking about God stuff I was technically supposed to be quiet. But I was all like, this man commits blasphemy. And I pointed to the crowd, I think. Like, you heard it. You all heard it. Full stop. Then when he started talking more I was like, oh look at me, I'm Jesus. Doing a practice for a play in front of a small crowd of like maybe 35-50 people when I shit my pants. Middle of my lines I felt the wetness and had to run off stage. I kept myself locked in a room the rest of the day. In 5th grade I went to school on Halloween costume day completely dressed up like a pirate. Makeup. Costume. Hair. Everything. Walked into school only to realize no one else was wearing a costume and that dress up day was tomorrow. Had to wait until lunch for my mom to bring me new clothes. Went for an interview and handed the person my coat when they were trying to shake my hand. Update. I did not get the job, unfortunately. A few years later I went to another interview during which my stomach would not stop growling. Which is one of my worst nightmares made real. Somehow got a job there, lol. When they take your coat confused. You sit in their chair and begin interviewing them. At the end of a great job interview. Shook the guy's wrist instead of his hand and held on like I meant to do it. Didn't get the job. Right. I grew up in an extremely sheltered household, so my brain just didn't know what racism was, and we were trying to pick teams for basketball and I tried to organize by color. Dude. A very white child living in a very white neighborhood. Had a deaf black foster sister. She went to a school for the deaf and all the friends she made there happened to also be black and, deaf. So in my young life, every black person I met was deaf and spoke only using sign language. I screamed the first time a black person spoke out loud to me and went, "You can talk." I was interested in a guy but didn't know how to start a conversation with him. This was in school. We were playing a game where one person chased everyone else. And when they touched you, you had to go to jail. That meant you had to put your arms inside the torso part of your sweater. And the sleeves got tied around a pole. You had to get loose to be free again. Either on your own or by the help of someone else. I think I was about 11 at the time. I got caught and tied to a pole. But I was wearing a hoodie with a zipper. So I felt incredibly smart when I unzipped it from the inside and ran away shouting HA. Thing is, I had forgotten to put on a t-shirt under the hoodie. And I was an early bloomer. So I basically showed the whole schoolyard my recently grown tits. Shudder. Until the lousy sentence I read it as you being a guy and thinking what a great move. Then that last sentence came in bringing the wave of cringe. When I was 16 I got set up with a family friend's daughter. We started dating in a long distance relationship. After a month or so it was school holidays and I went up to visit her. I didn't have a lot of money but I wanted to buy her a gift. I settled on a beautiful jigsaw puzzle. She wasn't too happy about the gift. Because she was blind. Yes, I bought my blind girlfriend a jigsaw puzzle. In the moment it seemed very appropriate because each piece was unique, right? She can feel the pieces, right? Pure effing cringe. Still haunts me. Edit. Thanks for the silver. I was walking back to my car after a grocery trip and an older gentleman said hello to me as I walked past. My brain completely short-circuited and I responded with GGGGGG. Definitely that time my professor asked what I did over the summer. And I wanted to say hanging around and catching up with sleep. All I managed to blurt out was sleeping around. That wasn't even true. The time my internet access was shot over a weekend. So I went to work as usual on Monday. And stayed and worked all day. and only found out I'd been fired the week before when I got home. Small, very high profile business. Everyone was acting weird all day. I soft broiled myself to sleep in this memory. Edit. For all the people mentioning HR and legal technicalities, this was a very small firm. The owner was famous within the field. Think of a celebrity with a staff of 7 people. No HR. No manager. Just a small group of people glad to work there. I was there as a freelancer. Who the FCK doesn't call for a termination. When I was 16, I offered to take a girl I liked to the movies. I approached the ticket counter and asked for 1 movie ticket. Immediately realized I was an idiot, but was too embarrassed to rectify my mistake. She purchased her own ticket to the movie. Still haunts me almost 10 years later. I was a bit drunk at a friend's wedding and decided to scroll all over 2 pages of her wedding book to fill up some space. Later someone was looking at the book and I heard them say, "Look at this. What sort of person does that?" Full stop. I still feel bad when I think about it. Trying to run away from home when I was 6 only to stop at the start of the driveway because I was always told that it was dangerous to walk on the street without an adult. My parents have this really nice photo of me with my little backpack, standing there looking really conflicted. My sister ran away when she was like 11 or so. She left a note that said, "You'll never find me. I'm at neighbor's house." We found her. I fell into a fountain. Not once but 3 different times in 3 different fountains. On a trip to Europe with a group of kids from school when I was in 7th grade. Of course my crush and his friends went on this trip and they proceeded to call me Fountain Girl till high school graduation. When I told everyone that I was auditioning for the national talent show in my country and got rejected after singing 2 verses in the producers' auditions. That made for an awkward return to school. I was bullshitting my way through a presentation in college on tanks in World War II and this kid just got so sick of my shitty that he called out from never bullshitty stuff about World War II technology. There's always one kid who knows his stuff and will correct you. Farted in class during a test back in middle school. Everybody knew it was me but I was too awkward to confirm or deny it, so I just acted oblivious. That fart must have been pretty awful because a bunch of classmates around me covered their noses with their shirts and the teacher cracked open a window. Just the complete awkward silence that followed the fart and the feeling of everybody staring at me in disgust still makes me shudder with cringe whenever I think about it. Edit. I've been reading countless of you guys' embarrassing and hilarious fart stories. And it feels comforting knowing I'm not cringing alone here. So thanks for that. So for context, I went to a really sheltered Catholic high school. So didn't really know how the real world worked. My first job when I was 16 and I'm being introduced to all my co-workers. One of them named Morris, who was obviously homosexual, asked me if I was too. I wasn't but wanted to let him know I was cool with it, again Catholic high school, and said no but I'm open-minded about it. To which he responded, "We're gonna work on that." What an awkward summer. I cringe every time. My dad caught me masturbating wearing women's lingerie when I was 15. Was your dad wearing lingerie or you? I fell asleep in my high school history class. I was all the way in the back of the room so the teacher never noticed. Until I farted in my sleep so loud that it woke me up and my head shot up and smacked against the back wall. Never heard the end of it. Edit. Holy cow, this is my first ever post on here. Thanks everyone. Edit 2. Since a couple people asked. At the time nobody really reacted. Except the guy in front of me was just kind of shaking. He turned around to look at me and was laughing so hard he was crying. Me pooping in my pants in 1st grade because I thought pooping in toilets other than my own is illegal. So my mom had won this prize at a big shopping center. She was allowed to take 3 guests for a day of shopping that included gift cards at various stores and a $250 gift card at a restaurant of her choice for us to eat at. Anyways, it was a big deal and they had a film crew come and tape some of it for their website. The reporter lady comes up to me when the food arrives and she's like, "That looks fantastic. What did you get?" And I was caught off guard, so I look at the camera and go, "Gift cards." Ultimate cringe, and it took me about half a second to realize what she meant. When I think about it now, at least I can laugh about it. Edited for typos. Doing a promposal for a girl who broke up with me 2 days after. Or 3rd grade spelling bee. I misspelled field and lost it on stage. Touching tongues with my younger sister. We wanted to know why tongues tasted like. So we stuck our tongues out. Booped our tongues together. And almost vomited. Edit. Jesus Christ, you guys. I thought I was the only one. Anyway. As a thanks for all the upvotes, I'll share another story. I used to lick cats because I wanted to help clean their fur. I was under 10 years old. Me and my twin did it too. It was so gross. Now I know why our mom kept saying, "Stop it. Stop it. Stop it." So when I was 8 or so, some of my parents' friends came over. And they brought their son, who was a few years older than me. I used to really idolize that kid for some reason. He just seemed cool and was always friendly toward me. So this particular day I happened to be lounging around in my pajamas watching television and I hadn't expected company. I don't know why. Because wearing pajamas, especially as an 8-year-old boy, is not that big of a thing. But I was absolutely mortified when the kid came into the room to say hi. So I ended up running to the closet nearby and shutting the door. This was right in front of the kid. My parents couldn't get me out. The kid came up and through the door was like, "That's totally fine, bud. There's nothing for you to be embarrassed about. Come out and play. If you want you can go change first." But I wasn't having any of it. I was by this point more embarrassed about my reaction than being caught in pajamas. So I couldn't bring myself to come out until the kid and his parents left like 2 hours later. The very first night my now wife spent at my place had only been dating a week. But I was super into her. We got TTY drunk before bed. The next morning I forgot she was there, still technically drunk, and ripped a once in a lifetime epic fart that was both echoing through the hallways and melting paint off the walls. I remembered she was there when she audibly laughed and said, "Oh my god." I pretended to still be asleep instead of addressing it. To this day I'm amazed she stuck around after that. But we're now happily married. Anyone that can survive that and still stick around is definitely a keeper. This guy in one of my classes in 8th grade I was friendly with. He didn't seem to be good friends with anyone else in the class. He was a nice kid, just maybe a little awkward, but we had good conversations about lots, so hey. Then one day at the end of the period we were both packing up our stuff and he says, "Hey, do you want to go out with me next Wednesday?" Wasn't interested in him that way. And I was so off guard that I froze like a deer in the headlights until I finally stammered up, "I think my mom has plans, sorry bye," and basically ran out of the room. I still feel bad about it. Every time I saw him in middle school and high school after that I felt terrible. Sorry Colin. Ran face first into a bench when I was 16 and cried haha. Only one person saw. And of course it was my crush at the time. Oof. 5th grade. Sobbing in front of the whole school when I lost the geography B to my best friend. I beat him next year though. Then went on to get my ass kicked at regionals. My sons and their friend kicked their ball into the middle of a little pond at our local park. I let them use my walking stick to try get it out, but they couldn't quite reach. A man passing by with his son offered to help. He got the ball but dropped my stick. As he was reaching for the stick he fell in. He laughed. We laughed and he went off home to dry up. He returned 10 minutes later because once he got home he realized his phone was missing. His phone that contained baby pics of his son and newborn at home. We tried so hard to find that damn phone. I still feel bloody awful. I was in my early 20s. Had a girlfriend of 3 years and we were like 2 years into our relationship. And one time after we had sex I said, and I still don't know what possessed me to say this, God, this is so embarrassing. I said. Where are you gonna find dick this good? It was so awkward. And I think about it like once a month because it is easily the dumbest thing I have ever said. And it makes me cringe so bad. Someone punched me in the face. If it makes you feel better. I had an ex that, during a hand job, said milk me mummy. Guess he thought it was the male version of choke me daddy. Could not continue. Edit. I'm glad everyone's finding so much amusement in my pain. So I was having a psychological evaluation for a military school. The psychologist gave me 2 pieces of paper to draw a male and a female and name them. The male one was easy. I just have to draw myself and use my own name. I was having difficulty drawing a female and couldn't think fast, so my stupid ass drew the psychologist because she was cute. Then came the part where she started asking about the drawing. The male part went smoothly. When she asked about the name of the female, I said actually it was you, plus a smirk. Then she straight up wrote the name of the drawing, actually it was you. I still cringe about it up to now. Went to the beach with 3 friends, 2 boys, 1 girl, at some point in late middle school. We were swimming in the ocean and I got knocked down by a huge wave. When I stood up to face my friends, the boys started screaming. I looked down, and there was my left boob on full display. Threw that bathing suit out as soon as I got home. It always the left one. In 9th grade, I wrote a radio DJ a really nasty email because he didn't like Limp Bizkit. I spent a lot of time at my great grandparents' house as a kid. My room didn't have a lock on the door. I was a preteen and it was the middle of the day. Super bright in my room. And I was 100% naked. Just laying on the floor and diddling. My grandma started coming in and I screamed. "UHHH, don't come," and she came in and saw everything. And just quickly left. I went out a little while later and said, I was really warm. So I took my clothes off. She just stared at me. Silent. She wasn't mad or anything. I just stood up and went back to my room and she has never mentioned it since. First post. In elementary, the little elementary playground and the older elementary playgrounds were right next to each other and there was an imaginary line we couldn't cross. Me and my friends had the hugest crush on the big kid that played soccer. I was so stupid. I shoved a dodgeball up my shirt and yelled, "Hey, cute big kid, look, you got me pregnant, I have nightmares about it." Luckily he moved away. I was really quiet and stood up in the middle of class to say something. Finally speaking up. The room was silent. I slowly sat back down. Was a kid, 10, in a family vacation in Hong Kong and we were all in a souvenir store. I was walking around with my brother, 9, trying to find a cool toy to buy. It took me long enough to find one. But I was proud that I found it. I was amused by it and started talking about it to him. It was a large, stretchy and bouncy toy that had a cartoonish face on it. I was saying things like, "Wow, this is so cool," and proceeded to make the toy bounce a lot. I brought the toy towards my brother's face and shouted boing boing boing, and that's when I realized that I wasn't talking to my brother anymore. It was a Chinese boy. Assumably 10-12 years old. He stared at me with the most serious face ever. I legit felt so ashamed. And ran away. I didn't bother to get the toy anymore. I have never been so traumatized in my life that until this day I still think about that Chinese boy's poker face. I thought it was going to be a DLDO. I accidentally sent implied gay porn to a customer at work instead of a friend. And now you have 2 friends. When I was 11 I was singing a video game rap at the top of my lungs. I thought I was alone.